reached for the radio. "I'm going to order the guards in the lead and tail vehicles to return fire." Marat shook his head. "No, Hassan. Think. We're camouflaged in Russian military uniforms, riding in Russian personnel carriers. Whoever is firing on us is more likely an ally than a foe. We need to make sure before there's innocent blood on our hands." He took the radio from Arsenov, ordered the convoy to a halt. "Lieutenant Gochiev," he said into the radio, "organize your men into a recon. I want to find out who's shooting at us, but I don't want them killed." In the lead vehicle, Lieutenant Gochiev gathered his men and ordered them to fan out behind the cover of the armored convoy. He followed them onto the rubble-strewn street, hunching his shoulders against the bitter cold. Using precise hand signals, he directed his men to converge from the left and right onto the place from which the small arms fire had come. His men were well trained. They moved swiftly and silently from rock to wall to pile of twisted metal beams, scrunched down, presenting as small a target as possible. However, no more shots were heard. They made their final run at once, a pincer move designed to trap the enemy and crush them in a blistering crossfire. In the center vehicle, Hassan Arsenov kept his eye on the place where Gochiev had converged the troops and waited for the sounds of gunfire that never came. Instead, the head and shoulders of Lieutenant Gochiev appeared in the distance. Facing the center vehicle, he waved his arm back and forth in an arc, signaling that the area had been secured. At this sign, Khalid Marat moved past Arsenov, stepped out of the personnel carrier and, without hesitation, walked through the frozen rubble toward his men. "Khalid Marat!" Arsenov called in alarm, running after his leader. Clearly unperturbed, Marat walked toward a low, crumbling stone wall, the place where the gunfire had emanated. He caught a glimpse of the piles of garbage. On one was a waxy, white-skinned corpse that had some time ago been stripped of its clothes. Even at a distance, the stench of putrefaction was like being hit with a poleaxe. Arsenov caught up with him and drew his sidearm. When Marat reached the wall, his men were on either side, their arms at the ready. The wind gusted fitfully, howling and whining through the ruins. The dull metallic sky had darkened further, and it began to snow. A light dusting quickly coated Marat's boots, created a web in the wiry jumble of his beard. "Lieutenant Gochiev, you found the attackers?" "I have, sir." "Allah has guided me in all things. He guides me in this. Let me see them." "There's only one," Gochiev replied. "One?" Arsenov cried. "Who? Did he know we're Chechen?" "You're Chechen?" a small voice said. A pallid face emerged from behind the wall, a boy not more than 10 years old. He wore a filthy wool hat, threadbare sweater over a few thin plaid shirts, patched trousers, and a pair of cracked rubber boots, far too big for his feet, which had probably been taken off a dead man. Though only a child, he had the eyes of an adult. They watched everything with a combination of wariness and mistrust. He stood protecting the skeleton of an unexploded Russian rocket he had scavenged for bread money, likely all that stood between his family and starvation. He held a gun in his left hand. His right arm ended at the wrist. Marat immediately looked away, but Arsenov continued to stare. "A landmine," the boy said with a heartbreaking matter-of-factness. "Laid by the Russian scum. Allah be praised." "What a little soldier," Marat exclaimed, directing his dazzling, disarming smile at the boy. It was this smile that had drawn his people to him like filings to a magnet. "Come, come." He beckoned, then held his empty palms up. "As you can see, we're Chechen, like you." "If you're like me," the boy said, "why do you ride in Russian armored cars?" "What better way to hide from the Russian wolf, huh?" Marat squinted, laughed to see that the boy held a Gyursa. "You carry a Russian Special Forces gun. Such bravery must be rewarded, yes?" Marat knelt next to the boy and asked his name. When the boy told him, he said, "Asnar, do you know who I am?" "I am Khalid Marat, and I, too, wish to be free of the Russian yoke. Together we can do this, yes?" "I never meant to shoot at fellow Chechens," Asnar said. With his mutilated arm, he pointed to the convoy. I thought this was a Zahitka. He meant the monstrous cleanup operations perpetrated by Russian soldiers who searched for suspected rebels. More than 12,000 Chechens had been killed during the Zahitkas. 2,000 had simply disappeared, countless others injured, tortured, maimed, and raped. The Russians murdered my father, my uncles. If you were Russians, I would have killed you all. A spasm of rage and frustration played across his face. I believe you would have, Marat said solemnly. He dug in his pocket for some bills. The boy had to tuck the gun into his waistband in order to take them in his remaining hand. Leaning toward the boy, Marat said in a collusive whisper, "Now listen to me. I'll tell you where to buy more ammunition for your Dyrza, so you'll be prepared when the next Zahitka comes." "Thank you." Asnor's face cracked open in a smile. Khalid Marat whispered a few words, then stepped back and ruffled the boy's hair. "Allah be with you, little soldier, in everything you do." The Chechen leader and his second-in-command watched the small boy as he clambered back over the rubble, pieces of an unexploded Russian rocket tucked under one arm. Then they returned to their vehicle. With a grunt of disgust, Hassan slammed shut the armor-plated door on the world outside. Asnor's world. "Doesn't it bother you that you're sending a child to his death?" Marat glanced at him. The snow had melted to trembling droplets on his beard, making him seem in Arsenov's eyes more like a liturgical imam than a military commander. "I've given this child, who must feed and clothe and, most important, protect the rest of his family as if he were an adult. I have given him hope, a specific objective. In short, I've provided him with a reason to live." Bitterness had turned Arsenov's face hard and pale. His eyes had a baleful look. "Russian bullets will tear him to ribbons." "Is that what you truly think, Hassan? That Asnor is stupid, or, worse, careless?" "He's but one child." "When the seed is planted, the shoots will rise out of even the most inhospitable ground. It's always been this way, Hassan. The belief and courage of one inevitably grows and spreads, and soon that one is 10, 20, 100, 1,000. And all the while our people are being murdered, raped, beaten, starved, and penned like cattle. It's not enough, Khalid. Not nearly enough." "The impatience of youth hasn't yet left you, Hassan." He gripped the other's shoulder. "Well, I shouldn't be surprised, yes?" Arsenov, catching the look of pity in Marat's eyes, clenched his jaw and turned his face away. Curls of snow made visible wind devils along the street, whirling like Chechen dervishes in ecstatic trance. Marat took this as a sign of the import of what he had just done, of what he was about to say. "Have faith," he said in hushed, sacramental tones, "in Allah and in that courageous boy." 10 minutes later, the convoy stopped in front of Hospital Number 9. Arsenov looked at his wristwatch. "Almost time," he said. The two of them were riding in the same vehicle, against standard security precautions, owing to the extreme importance of the call they were about to receive. Marat leaned over, pressed a button, and the soundproof barrier rose into place, cutting them off from the driver and 4 bodyguards sitting forward. Well-trained, they stared straight ahead through the bulletproof windshield. "Tell me, Khalid, as the moment of truth is upon us, what reservations you have." Marat raised his bristling eyebrows in a display of incomprehension that Arsenov thought rather transparent. "Reservations? Don't you want what's rightfully ours, Khalid? What Allah decrees we should have?" "The blood runs high in you, my friend. I know this only too well. We've fought side by side many times. We've killed together, and we owe each other our very lives, yes? Now, listen to me. I bleed for our people. Their pain fills me with a rage I can barely contain. You know this better perhaps than anyone. But history warns that one should beware what one wants the most. The consequences of what's being proposed.